After 17 years of dreaming about the sea, Jonathan and Mary Young decided 2024 was the year to turn their dream into reality, juggling kids, careers, and even a treehouse project. Let's hear how they made it happen.
Welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast. We are your hosts, Erik, Orton.
And I'm Emily Orton.
And here we talk about personal growth and sailing. In 2014, we moved aboard a fixer-upper sailboat and bootstrapped a year sailing with our 5 kids, and it changed our lives forever.
We tell the whole story in our memoir, our book, 7 at Sea. On this podcast, we want to help you go from fear to freedom, one adventure at a time. If you've ever felt like the dream was too big, the timing too hard, or life too busy, meet Jonathan and Mary Young, who proved otherwise with their journey to the sea.
After falling in love at Santa Monica Beach, Jonathan and Mary Young have spent the last 17 years living in cold, landlocked states, dreaming of getting back to the sunshine and the sea. In 2024, they committed to a year of learning how to sail and somehow pulled it off amidst the demands of 4 young children, full-time careers, and an endless treehouse project. So first of all, I mean, you and I, we've known each other for a year because we sailed together, but I want to start with this treehouse.
Yeah, but I want to start with just thanking you so much for being willing to join us, because it isn't always easy or comfortable. And I know it's a little bit of a risk to come on a podcast. So thanks for being willing to share your story with us.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks so much for having us. We're happy to be here.
Thanks, guys. So we're gonna get into sailing, and we're gonna talk about when we went sailing together and some of your adventures since then. But okay, what's the treehouse? This endless treehouse project.
I think you should start with that one.
All right. So when I was a kid, I was probably 9 or 10. I tried to build my own treehouse, and I failed miserably. And it's always been a dream of mine. So last summer, I started the treehouse, and by the end of the summer, it was a deck. It's pretty big. It's like 10 by 13 feet.
Up in the air?
This year, we put a house on the deck. So now there's a house up there.
It was this beautiful old willow tree in our yard. And it's one of the things I fell in love with about this house when we bought it. But we had a few different arborists come look at it, and they all said, this needs to come down. It's dangerous. Oh. The core in the middle is rotted, and these giant, branches that weigh thousands of pounds could fall on one of your kids. Our kids would play on there all the time. The neighbors' kids would play on it. And so my heart was broken, but we had to cut it down. So we decided to leave this massive stump with a few logs coming out, and build the deck of the treehouse kind of on top of that stump, but not really reliant on it for its support, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it was, Johnny made these holes in the ground with cement, and it's very sturdy on its own, but it's connected to this tree. And what happened was, after making the deck, it kind of sat for a year without more progress. And I think it's been 2 or 3 years since we started this whole thing with the tree being cut.
No, it was last year.
It feels like it's been forever. But the tree started growing again. Like, all of these green branches just shot up, and we had this cloud of leafy green all around the deck that we had built. And so it's kind of this amazing story of rebirth and transformation. I don't know. I love it. And he thinks that's cheesy, but it's so fun. And our kids have been involved in the whole thing. And I'm amazed at Jonathan's skills, because I looked at the whole situation and thought, this is really impossible, but he's made it happen.
Wow. I feel like we're going to need a photograph of this treehouse that we can include.
Yeah. Put it in the show notes for sure.
For sure we can.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can put photos in the show notes, but we could email it out or put it up on the...
We'll see. We'll figure it out. But I love this metaphor of kind of just something that has to come down, at least to a certain extent. And then there's some tear down, some cutting back, pruning, and then you're able to start building in a new direction. And somehow out of that, new life starts to reemerge.
Yeah. Your dream treehouse, the tree's actually there. Erik has a song with a lyric. We sing it a lot as a family. And one of the lines is, out of what was cut down, a sprout begins to grow. Over time, a tree there will stand again, I know. So
Oh.
it fits your
Oh, yeah,
treehouse
that fits
beautifully.
perfectly.
Beautiful.
Maybe
Yeah,
we'll have to include that song at the end of the podcast.
Maybe we'll link it.
I love that.
Okay. Thank you for indulging me with a tangent right out of the gates.
Oh, absolutely.
But, whenever you throw out something like the Endless Treehouse Project, it sparks curiosity.
It has. It's just grown bigger and more challenging than we thought. And it's taken up a lot of time, but it's a cool family project. So.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of taking a while, 17 years of dreaming about the sea. First of all, just for our listeners, let's catch them up on us, because we got on a Zoom call about a year ago because you reached out about wanting to go sailing. And did we meet originally at a speaking event? Remind me.
No, actually, we found you through your book.
Yeah.
Okay. Because then you got on our email list, and then when we were kind of sharing out about sailing trips, you guys raised your hands. Am I remembering this right?
Yeah. So at the end of your audio book, I think it mentions that you had a podcast or a website, or it kind of gives a little more info about where to find you now. And so I was curious and found your podcast. So actually, I heard you talk about your sailing trips here.
Oh, very cool.
Hey, fun. Okay. All right. And so then, because I remember we got on a call last year and we went sailing in Mexico, in La Paz, which it's so incredible
it's
there.
So beautiful.
I just love it.
Eric,
Yeah.
People ask Eric, where's the most beautiful place you've ever sailed? And he always says La Paz, Mexico. I'm sure it was on that trip with you.
So we went, it was April, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we all went sailing in Mexico and then actually, okay, I don't want to, that catches us up. I don't want to steal the thunder from what happens from there, but just talk to us where this dream started of why sailing and what happened 17 years ago that kind of sparked it, and just, kind of water ski us through those 17 years up till now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, 17 years ago was kind of when we met and were falling in love. And we actually met here in Utah, but we spent this weekend together in California and spent this day on the beach. And that was kind of the day that we first told each other that we loved each other.
Yeah.
And so that was that. But I would say this idea of loving the water started long before that, actually, for each of us, like our individual childhoods. I grew up living by the Arabian Gulf in Kuwait and playing in the ocean every day, and actually sailing on a little beach catamaran with my dad, and just have always loved the water. I was on the swim team and lifeguard, and just love being in and near pools and oceans and any chance I get.
Yeah. And I also loved the water as a kid. I didn't live next to an ocean, but I loved swimming in the city pool as a lifeguard also. So I always loved the water. And some of my fondest memories as a kid were going to Lake Powell with cousins and being on a houseboat, playing in the water. So we've always both loved the water, definitely.
Yeah. And then I think when let's water ski through, like, is that what you said? Water ski. Yeah. So we met and fell in love and we got married, and we moved to Illinois for graduate school, and it was cold and we were both stressed out students and had no money, and it was a cool time, but a challenging time. And we used to meet up at this little hole in the wall Mexican place, and over chips and salsa, we both just kind of unload about our stresses in our day. And we would always like jokingly fantasize about, like, let's go move to a shack on the beach. Like, let's just run away from all of this. And that was always the image, was like, we going to the beach. That was the dream. And we always joked about it. And then we moved to Idaho with our first jobs. And my dad actually invited us to go scuba diving. Neither of us were scuba certified at the time, but we had actually been trying to start a family, and we were at a stage where that was not working, and that was a whole other emotional journey, but we kind of decided we don't want to wait around to live. We want to just live now. And so we said yes. And we got scuba certified in Idaho in a pool and then came down to Utah. Actually, there's the Homestead Crater that is a warm water kind of hot springs crater, and it's pretty deep. So you can do your certification there. And we ended up going to Belize with my parents on this amazing scuba trip. And so just every chance we got, we would go to warm places. So we went to Mexico and Hawaii and Curacao, and any chance we got, we were going to the ocean. Over these years of living in cold places and learning to love the winter, for me at least.
Yeah. And then when was it? Like a few years ago, we started thinking about sailing.
Yeah.
And
2019.
Oh, more than a few years ago.
That was the year our book came out.
Perfect timing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We did not know about your book then. I wish we had.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so
keep going.
I kind of just got interested in sailing. I saw a few videos online and I thought it'd be interesting. And then I was actually going back to school and I had a class that was really good. It is called Razor's Edge, but there's a guest speaker. His name is Stacy Taniguchi, but he mentioned his 100 list and living a life with purpose and thriving. And so he, like, as I think a young man or a teenager, maybe he's in his 20s, I can't remember, but he made this list of 100 things that he wanted to accomplish in his life. And he challenged us to make our own 100 list. And so I started filling it out and I put sailing on it. And I was a little bit nervous to put it there because the rules with the 100 list, if you add something, you can't take it off. And I was like, I live in Utah. How can I sail? Like, how can I make this possible? But I added it to the list. And then we thought about it off and on. I even bought ASA books. But I kept making excuses not to do it. And then Mary was like, we just need to do this. And so she found you guys. And then that's when we reached out to you.
Yeah. I think we balance each other really well because Johnny is so good at just being a really grounded, really stable presence. And he's really good at just putting his head down and working. And he's just in the moment. Whereas I kind of tend to be more future focused and I'm always looking to what's next. And I'm a little restless and I like to plan ahead. And he was kind of enjoying like thinking about sailing and watching other people sail on YouTube or like, talking about it. And I kind of said, I want to make it happen. Let's go for it. And we also just have this shared value of like collecting experiences rather than things. And so we thought it would be a really cool experience and skill set for us to learn together, to have this new shared hobby and something that we could eventually include our kids in. Sailing, I'm probably just naive about sailing still, but it represents so many of things that I find as ideals. Like I love the simplicity and minimalism of like being in a small space with just a few things that you actually need. And along with that, like being off grid, no cell signal, just being really in connection with nature. Even like the sustainability piece of just being powered by the wind and, like being devoted to adventure and exploration and all these things that I really love, but I find I aspire to and I'm inspired by, but it's hard to capture just in the daily grind of life. So yeah, in the middle of that 17 years, we had 4 kids, we've moved, we've had, just life, house projects and all kinds of things. So.
Cool. All right. So that you kind of brought us up to 2019 when you discovered it. And then you were doing some dreaming and some research, what Emily and I would call marinating. You're sort of just hanging out with people online. And actually when we coach, where would you say this falls?
Well, you had chosen your island. You knew you wanted to sail, and you've been marinating for a while. And the same thing happened with us. Like, because the dream was shared, there we could hold each other's feet to the fire a little bit. We could hold each other accountable and say, "All right, well, what's the next step?" And
so,
yeah.
okay, so what brought things together in 2024 after, you know, dealing, you know, just kind of day-to-day life? I get it. Like, you know, you're going to work, the kids are going to school, you're upkeeping the house, you're buying the groceries, you know, you're putting gas in the car, like just chugging along. And then what flipped the switch? What made you reach out when you did?
Mary. I like it. If it wasn't for Mary, nothing would have happened. But Mary was like, we're going to schedule this. We're going to make it happen.
Well, I asked him at that point, do you want this to continue being a fantasy? Right? Because there is some value to that, of just having this kind of thing that you enjoy imagining. And it's like this escapist reality. And you like to think about it. But we know that when you confront something face to face, then you find out like everything is multifaceted and everything has challenges as well as, you know, beauty. And so I said, do you want this to just be a fantasy? And if you do, that's fine. But if you do, like, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, just keep that your personal fun thing, but like, let's set other goals, because I'm very goal oriented. And if you want to like find out the reality and try it out and see what we think, like, let's just go for it. And I think also just the timing of our family life was better. Our baby was a little bit old enough that I felt like we could leave him for a trip like that. And yeah, I don't know. It was just the right time.
That's true.
For our listeners, sorry, I just wanted to jump in for our listeners. Do you mind sharing the ages of your kids or the age range from oldest to youngest?
Sure. So we have 10, 9, 5, and 3.
Okay. So these are not like teenagers that are able to take care of themselves. They're not out of the house. You know, I know this, but I think a lot of people think like, oh, you know, sure, if your kids are self-sufficient, then you can do this sort of thing. Or, you know, in our case, our kids are almost all adults now. It's just a different situation. But you said 10 to 3 is your range.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So sorry, Jonathan, you were about to say something and I jumped in.
No, you're fine. So yeah, Mary asked me about the dream and it's like, yeah, let's try it. I was a little bit nervous as I hadn't really experienced it. So then we were looking at actually other charters in the BVI, but then Mary like found you guys, and so she's like, let's set up a call. And I was kind of nervous to do it actually, because I was like, I hadn't listened to the book yet. Mm-hmm. So I felt
like I knew you guys and he didn't yet.
Yeah.
We were still strangers to Jonathan, but Mary, we were already friends.
So, and I was like, okay, and go on a boat. And then I also was kind of nervous about spending like that much time with total strangers. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of intimate on a sailboat, right? Because you have very close quarters. Yeah. There's not a lot of privacy. So I was nervous about that also. But we scheduled the call, we had it, and then we just did it.
I think it was really it's kind of the unicorn of sailing experiences, honestly. Oh, yeah. Because when we were looking, there were all these options that, you know, from super expensive, super time intensive, or ones where, you know, we have to live right near the place where they're doing lessons ongoing, or just it, or maybe you needed more commitment, or you had to sign up for a class or something. But this just seemed like the perfect chance to see what it was like with no pressure, and it totally delivered on that idea. It was the perfect experience for us at that time.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that. And I remember it just being a fantastic trip. And in fact, I know I've already asked you this question because when we were on the boat, it was the last day, and, you know, and I point a camera at you and I'm like, hey, what were some of your favorite things? And what were some of the things that, you know, anyway, you know, we do a little exit interview on our trips. Yeah. But if, you know, now that you've got some distance, because I also want you to tell our listeners what's happened since then, which I think is really important and exciting. So I don't want to chew up too much time with that. But, you know, when you say it delivered, like what was it about it that made you feel like, yeah, I'm really glad we came? Because there was I think it's scary to get on a call with us, especially if you haven't listened to our book or you don't really know us that well. I get that.
Because we quiz you and we ask questions about the book. And if you can't answer them, then we hang up.
We hang up on you. Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No,
You guys are the nicest.
No, nobody has to read our book to get on a call with us. But I get that we were unknown, to you, Jonathan. And so, but you say the trip delivered, what was it that was working for you? Because please don't, we're not like fishing for.
Yeah, we don't want an ad. We just want to know what actually was good.
What was it that was working for you and what you wanted to do?
Well, there are a lot of things. So one, I wanted to know what it was like to be on a sailboat, like for more than a few hours. I'd only been on a sailboat for a few hours before that moment. So I wanted to experience like living on a sailboat. What is it like to sleep on a sailboat? What does it feel like? Like, do I feel claustrophobic? What is it? Or seasick? And then, so I wanted that experience. I also wanted some adventure. And to be honest, it was a little bit of a vacation for us. So,
for sure.
For me, it was the perfect combination of relaxation and adventure.
And you, Erik, you were a star.
Yeah.
We realized this even more. Honestly, you said you don't want an ad, but we are totally an ad, because after this past year and the other sailing experiences we reflected back on this trip and how much you do. Like the way that you are just a really great host in helping everybody feel comfortable. You played music for us. You kept the mood fun and light. And also, like, you're basically single-handing this sailboat with a very amateur fumbling crew that doesn't know anything. Yeah. And you're so gracious about teaching us what we want to know, but not really with any expectations about how we'll perform with you or for you. And I mean, just above and beyond, like, we know there's so many things you took care of behind the scenes as far as mechanics, right? Things on a boat, there's always little things that go wrong and you need to just fix and take care of. And you just seemed like you did it with such ease. And you offered to take photos and videos of us. Like, you're just very aware and sensitive to everybody's experience. And it was just pristine, beautiful place, and lots of time for just like solo reflection. Like, I loved laying out on the deck at night and looking at the stars. And just actually, Johnny, do you want to share the thoughts that you had during the blue sky meditation that you led with us, Erik?
Oh, yeah.
That was actually really transformative.
Yeah, for me at least, like I loved the blue sky meditation because as we were going through it, I was thinking about what I wanted in life. And I think I kind of grew up in a culture of, I don't know, like self-denial or like this mentality of like just endure. And it felt like going through the blue water meditation or blue sky meditation, it gave me the permission, or I felt like I had permission to go after my dreams and to live a richer life. And I'd never experienced that before. Because sometimes like I thought like, well, I want to do this, but is it right? Like, am I just being selfish? But I felt like, yes, I should do it. And it's a good thing. And I had like permission to do it. And that was so huge for me. And so then it like when we got back, it was easier to keep making the next steps. So,
wow.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to come back to what comes next. Just for our listeners, I want to jump in here. The blue sky meditation is actually something that's part of our coaching, which Emily and I used to do on our sailing trips. We don't do that right now, and maybe we'll come back to it at some point. But whenever people are interested, we do this little 8-minute meditation that Emily has narrated, and we just play it through the I mean, I kind of want to like describe this for people.
Yeah.
So, we just pipe it through the speakers that are on the boat, and people can sit or lay wherever they want. And we'll usually do it after dinner at night. And so you're out under this beautiful starry sky.
And when you've kind of met each other, it's maybe your last night, you're comfortable.
Yeah, we're not doing this on day one. We're doing this on, like
if you want to,
at least halfway through the trip. And so we're all friends at this point. And we all have, broken bread together and hung out, and, so. And we don't do it if people are, if nobody's interested. It's not like if you come on one of our trips, you don't have to do the blue sky meditation. Like, hey, if you guys want to, it's there. And so, but I think it's such a great place to do it because we are away from so many of our distractions and our list of obligations and responsibilities and things that normally make it very difficult to think big, to think open, and because we get so focused on the day to day. Those 17 years that you described of. It's so easy to just kind of like trudge along, plod along, put one foot in front of the other, doing good things. But one of those things often is not expansive imagination, vision casting.
Yeah. Our rhythms and habits kind of hold us. Where we are. So when we separate from those, it's a perfect time to kind of get a 30,000 foot view of what we really want. Yeah. I'm so glad that was empowering for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so empowering. I loved it.
Thank you for sharing that. And it was a beautiful trip. And we came home. And then one of the fun things about this is that we have a text thread with everybody that was on that trip. And, everybody kind of keeps in touch because we're now all friends. And you're posting updates every now and then. And so do you mind kind of catching us up from earlier this year when we went sailing to what's happened since then?
Yes, it was such a fun group of people. That was actually the other thing that you were a little nervous about ahead of time, but turned out to be amazing. I think this experience and you, Erik and Emily, just attract the people who are going to just thrive in that kind of setting. It seems they were all awesome. We came home from that trip and we had such a fantastic time. We decided, yes, we're committed to this now. That was like our little taste of, do we like sailing? And we both decided absolutely. So within 2 weeks, we signed up for sailing lessons on our local lake in the summertime. So that was spring. We signed up for sailing lessons for summer. And we also booked another sailing trip for the winter. Mm-hmm. So we filled our 2024 with sailing plans. You want to talk about the summer?
Yeah. So we went. We took like an introductory sailing course on the local lake. So we actually learned the really basic mechanics of sailing, and we were on a 25-foot Catalina, and it was great. It was beautiful out there. It's exhilarating to feel the wind take the sails, and it's kind of funny because you're only going like maybe 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. But it feels so much faster when the wind is on the sails and you have tension on the lines. And it was just so exciting. And we really enjoyed it.
It's actually one of the things I love about sailing is the slow down.
Yeah.
Sailing is very slow until it's not. And then you have to act quickly. But,
yes.
But well yes, said. I like that a lot. Yeah, we actually had so much fun doing that course, and our instructor was great and very patient and kind. And our kids, we were talking to them about, what we were learning. And we set up this little marina down here does not have boats that you can just rent for the day or for a few hours. So we would go to our lesson and then we'd come home and we'd want to practice our skills. So we set up in our living room, we used like bed sheets and held them up for the sail. And then we had a broom for the tiller. And then we got our fans and we'd move the box fan and we practiced the points of sail. And okay, we're going to tack now. Yeah. And our cute kids, our two oldest, they would help us with that to practice. And I love that.
I love that so much.
I've never thought of this, but just visualizing it just feels so delightful and charming.
Everyone can do this right now, whether or not you live near a body of water.
You need a bed sheet, a broomstick, and a fan, and two little kids to be swabbies.
Yeah.
That's right. They were the sheet. They were the sails. They would move the sheet for us. And it was so fun because actually at the end of the summer, our instructor was very nice. And he said, why don't you bring your kids out? So we brought just our two oldest kids onto the boat for a couple hours, and they had a blast, and they felt so important and confident that they knew some names of things, and they understood about, because we had talked through it with them. And
they knew the points of sail.
Yep.
And different terms.
At one point we were sailing downwind, so it felt like there was no wind, right? It was very light. And our daughter, she was 8, she said, oh no, the wind's gone. And I think you suggested, do a wind dance, make the wind come back. So she stood up on the front of the boat and did a little silly dance. And then we went ahead and turned the boat so that we were going upwind. So then she felt it all of a sudden come back. Like, she did it. The dance worked. It's a fun moment together.
Yeah, she was smart.
You guys are savvy. just knowing that it feels like the wind disappears when you go downwind is a big insight. And then, if you want to feel the wind, you just got to turn across it or up into it. And so you're taking me back, because our oldest kids were 9 and 11 when we first started taking sailing lessons. So right about the age that your kids are. And it was many years before we moved on to a sailboat. But I remember when we took a sailing class, it was me and Emily and our 2 oldest, who were the ages that I just said. And Emily and I did the test at the end of the class. They did not, but they came out of it confident. And when we started to sail on little day sailor boats as a family, they would have a chance to be at the tiller, to be steering the boat. And long before they had driver's licenses, especially for New York kids, because you don't get your license until you're 18. And so just seeing them guiding, driving, like steering a large vehicle or vessel that was carrying the whole family, they kind of stepped up in their confidence and in their responsibility. And so I'm so happy to hear you describing this similar pattern with your own kids, and just the fun that you're having, the connection that you're creating, the confidence that you're seeing in your kids and in yourselves too. I mean, you're leveling up because you're not only just going out with an instructor, you're going out by yourselves and with your kids. And that's the next level for you, I think.
Yeah,
absolutely. We decided after that, I guess before the introductory course, because we had already signed up for this class that we just completed this December.
A week ago, right?
Yes.
Okay, and we're gonna get to that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, no, but if you can go there right now if you want to. So you did, over the summer you did your, I'm going to say ASA 101, which is American Sailing Association Basic Keelboat 101, which is kind of like an entry level certification.
Yep.
And that's the one that I was just describing. Emily and I did. So that's where you're at. And then after you had already scheduled your ASA 103, 4, and 114. So anyway, why don't you talk about that trip?
Okay. Leading up to it, we knew we were supposed to be reading those books, right? There's 3 books. They're kind of dense. There's a lot to learn. And so we have like regular scheduled date nights with the babysitter coming, or sometimes grandma. And we decided for those date nights, we would study our books. So we would go to a restaurant that had Wi-Fi, and we'd eat dinner together and study our books together. And, we didn't do as much study as we probably should have or would have liked to, but we got in a little bit during the fall months in preparation for this trip. And so we actually went to the British Virgin Islands for a week and lived on a catamaran again, but it was a very different experience versus La Paz. Just 2 different places and 2 different kind of purposes, different crew on the boat. And this one was, I don't know, what would you say about it?
It was more work. It was definitely more intense. And it was kind of eye-opening, because when we went with you, Eric, you were taking care of everything. But then when we helped a little bit, but not much.
You guys were great.
But then like when we were on the boat, like we were docking it, we were taking it to mooring balls, we were raising the sails, jibing, tacking, navigating. And we were also taking tests. So it was definitely a different experience. It was more lesson focused, skill focused, and a little bit of touristy things, but we didn't really have much time to relax. So
there was one other student on the boat with us and our captain. So it was also a smaller group, but there was just the four of us. And we were up at sunrise every day, usually sailing off. You know how the islands are so close. So we'd sail to a new island, and then we'd spend the afternoon at that island, usually at a little beach bar, like drinking a mango shake or whatever, but with our books, because we had to study, because that evening we would take our written exam. And so it was a little bit of that feeling of drinking from a fire hose, of like all the sailing things all at once, but really cool, really fun. Our instructor was a very thorough, very intense kind of guy. And so that was also maybe not what I expected from that experience, but we learned a lot. And have you seen that grid about like moving from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence, and then conscious competence, and then unconscious competence? Anyway, just that learning process. I feel like we spent the week on the side of the grid that just feels like so much effort has to be expended, right? Where, okay, now I know what I don't know and now I'm learning it, but it takes so much to make it happen. And so, it was a beautiful week. I'm so glad that we did it together. And I think it grew our confidence and our competence.
We definitely gained a little bit of competence, but we absolutely need more experience.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Erik jumping in here real quick before we finish this conversation with Mary and Jonathan. While we were recording this, some weirdo technical glitch happened. We didn't touch anything and we couldn't hear any difference in our audio, but there's some kind of robotic staticky sound on my and Emily's mic from here to the end of the conversation. We fixed it as best we can. We've cut out as much of us talking as possible so we can really listen to Mary and Jonathan. But thanks for your patience. And let's just keep listening to what could go right with Mary and Jonathan Young.
But I think if we absolutely had to operate like a 40-foot catamaran, we could. Would it be smooth and beautiful? No.
But we could do it together.
We could do it together. And we also know that we work well together in that situation. So.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. Oh, Emily hears me say this often. I love this T-shirt that says, "Honey, please forgive me for the things that I said when we were docking." Just because it can be so stressful. And so the fact that you can say we worked well together in this environment, that's a huge accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I was loving that piece of it, actually. I think in our daily lives, we spend a lot of time apart from each other. We really love spending time together. We just don't have that much time together. And so that was a really great thing. And also just seeing how happy you were, Johnny, like big smile on your face the whole week. And like, no matter what was thrown at us, he was like, "Oh, it's fine. We're doing great." Just because you were happy to be there, I think.
Yeah. It was so much fun.
We actually, when we got home, we brought home some souvenirs to the kids, and we told them our plan is this next spring, we are going to take them out with us. So that's the plan. They are very pumped about it. And so are we. It's always been the goal of this is going to be a family activity. And so, we're working toward that, and we're all really excited about it.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
You guys have done a great job of making it a family activity up to this point, like setting such a good example for your kids, making it a game in your living room. But it's not just a game, because we really have to know this stuff when we're out there, right? But you're kind of role playing it, setting that up for your dates. They know, oh, mom and dad are making time for this. Yeah. And then they see you going out and actually doing it. As much as it builds your confidence, it builds their confidence too. And imagine what it would be like. And maybe you had this experience where you had parents who had a dream and they actively moved towards it. What does that do to you as a kid? That's huge, let alone once you actually get out there with them. You're building so much trust with them. What do we call that? It's like the reservoir, the relationship reservoir. Like you're filling the relationship reservoir with so much trust that they're like, oh, my parents do what they say they're going to do. I can trust them. And they'll trust you with their dreams too, even if it's something different, because it doesn't have to be the same. But anyway, I'm so impressed. You've already made it a family activity, and you guys are gonna have a blast out there in the spring.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. That's what we hope, that, you know, they're learning something from our example, and that they'll learn so much more, and we'll just have this unity as a family, being able to go through challenging things and fun things together. Because it is, you know, we actually missed our son's birthday when we were on one of these trips, and he was really sad about it. And so there have been some sacrifices to make it happen. And so I hope that they will come to understand like the value of it.
That's actually what I was going to ask you next. What were some of the trade-offs and sacrifices? So yeah, sometimes you're like, we're going to celebrate your birthday on a different day this year.
I think we talked a little bit about this, about like anytime you say yes to something, you're saying no to other things, right? There's always an opportunity cost. And we had to be intentional and conscious about that and be okay with that. You know, we could have taken other types of trips, or spent money or time on different things. We have to, you know, save up time off work. So we're both actually working through much of this Christmas holiday, since we just went on a trip in December, you know, just small things. But I would say overall, we just feel really a lot of gratitude for the opportunity to do it at all. And we understand that doesn't happen for many people, you know, no matter what sacrifices they would be willing to make. So we're really happy that we get the chance to. And I don't know, what else did you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, there've been little sacrifices here and there, but I think for me, having a dream and pursuing it is worth it, right? Mm-hmm. It makes like little sacrifices worth it. And also, kind of like you guys were talking about earlier, I don't want my children to be as old as I was before I realized it's okay to dream and it's okay to pursue things. And so if we can teach them early, like, go follow your dreams, you know, live a meaningful life, thrive. You know, you don't just need to endure. I think those are powerful lessons. And so I think those lessons, those experiences are worth any sacrifice.
Is there anything else that you would love for our listeners to know about your journey?
I don't know. I think there have been a lot of people that have inspired us. You guys, for one, that's part of the reason why we really loved your book. When I was looking for, I read a lot of, or listened to a lot of different books about sailing, mostly from solo sailors or couples. But the fact that you guys did it with your family was so inspiring to us. And I think, like, I'm just grateful for mentors and people who've inspired us throughout our lives to maybe do things a little bit differently. You know, we had people here, friends and coworkers and people, when we said, oh, we're going to learn to sail, they kind of laughed about it. Like, what? Where are you going to sail? That's not a Utah thing, you know? And, but just understanding that we could pursue this thing together. And I'm so grateful that we have, and for the people who have supported us. We've had so much help from people who know us and people who don't know us yet, like authors that we appreciate. But
definitely,
yeah.
Do you feel like this process has changed your perspective on risk?
I guess I feel like I have more confidence in taking risks. when we got back from this last trip a week ago, Mary sent out a text and told some family, like, we made this goal and we accomplished it this year. And when she said that, I remembered like that 100 list I'd made. I was like, oh, wow. You know, I can check that off. And it also just kind of made me excited, like, to go experience more things. And so, like, the sailing journey is not over by any means, but like, I'm excited about the other things on my list that I can go accomplish or experience. And certainly there's going to be risks, and there's going to be sacrifices and challenges and maybe even heartaches at times, but I'm excited to go experience new things and to do new things and try new things. And I don't know, it's kind of awakened, like, in me, like, this sense of excitement or a desire to explore and experience, and also just awe, you know, for life. And there's so many amazing things around us, and I'm just grateful for this beautiful world we live in and the opportunities I have. So.
Well, you guys have gone, first of all, thank you for sharing those beautiful thoughts. And I'm so inspired by you. You guys have gone from people who think about it to people that talk about it to people that do it. And that is huge. You are people that take action. And I love that the outcome is, hey, if we can do that, what else can we do? And, you know, the tagline for our podcast is fear to freedom, one adventure at a time. And there's a lot packed in there that may not be apparent. Yes, the goal is to help people go from fear to freedom. But when we say one adventure at a time, that means that there's going to be a first adventure, and then there's going to be a second and a third, and on and on. And the idea is to get into this process that becomes repeatable, that as we grow in confidence and competence, credibility, and as Emily and I talk about, calm, just the ability to sort of deal with more upheaval and take on more and more challenging things, the things that you're going to get to explore and do and experience as individuals, as a couple, as a family, are just going to keep growing and increasing. And that's what lights me up.
Yeah, just I think that too, that it adventure becomes a lifestyle. Like I'm willing to explore, I'm willing to discover. And I really loved what you said, Jonathan, about the gratitude, because it comes with a humility. A lot of times adventure is sort of paired with an arrogance or like a thrill seeking, but it really is an expansive gratitude. And so I just love that that's already baked in to what you're talking about. Did you want to add anything to what Jonathan had said about kind of how your perspective has changed on taking risks? I know you're very goal oriented, so.
What could go right?
Did you just end our podcast
episode? Honestly, I love that phrase so much. I'm really just, I don't want to, kind of like I talked about before with learning to scuba dive, like I don't want to wait to live. I also don't want to let fear make decisions for me. And so, if I'm going to use my imagination to think of all the worst possible outcomes, I'd rather use my imagination to think of all the best possible outcomes. And also, I don't know, I guess over the past few years, I've become a lot more aware of my internal like narrative. And anytime something comes up for me, I just try to be curious about it and decide, do I want to have this narrative in my mind or do I want to change it? And how does that make me feel? And that's been really powerful for big things and also just for little moments of stress as well. For example, on this last trip to the BVI, there was this moment when we were coming into the fuel dock and Jonathan was actually at the helm with our captain, and myself and the other student were supposed to be tying on all of these fenders so that, you know, they provide a little bit of buffer so that if the boat gets close to the dock, it doesn't get scratched up. And we were supposed to be tying on these fenders, and I could not for the life of me remember how to do the clove hitch. and I was feeling this stress of, okay, I see the dock. Okay, it's 20 feet away. Okay, it's 10 feet away. I had to tie on this dang fender. And I had this voice in my mind that was telling me, you can't do it. You can't do it. You don't know how. You don't know how. It's too late. You know, you're going to scratch the boat. And I just had to take a breath and remind myself, like, you do know how to do this knot. And even if you have to hold it there with your hand, you know, the line onto the lifeline, it's going to be fine. You're okay. And it was fine. I was able to tie the knot really quick and move on with life. And I just think, I'm really grateful for small experiences like that, that teach me that I don't have to be afraid. And also for those big moments of, like you're talking about, that zoom out view of, I try every morning when I get up early to go to the gym, I look out at the stars. It's still dark. And it just helps me remember, like, just this expansive view of what life is, where all these beings and creation of stardust, and we're all here having this experience, and we have these spirits and these intelligent minds, and we're learning stuff, and we're all connected. And I don't know, it's just this moment of awe and peace, and like, everything's going to be okay. All the little nitty gritty of the things that I'm afraid of or that I worry about doesn't matter so much when I zoom out like that and feel like that divine love and reassurance. And I think that is just really magnified in an experience like sailing, where you're connected to the elements and you're making important decisions, and you're working together with people that you care about. And I don't know, it's kind of like a little microcosm of that for me.
Guys,
Yeah.
pure gold. Thanks for sharing this. And as you said, Mary, well, I think we'll wrap it there, unless you have anything else, Emily.
My only question is, if you had advice for anyone else who was thinking about taking on a big dream and was feeling a little nervous, how would you advise them to go from fantasizing about it to saying, let's do this?
Put it on the calendar.
There you go.
Yeah, if you book plane tickets and they're non-refundable,
don't buy the trip insurance.
Yeah,
just
for me,
commit and then make it happen.
Yeah.
That's absolutely it. That's excellent advice.
I love it, guys. Thank you so much. What could go right? You guys are the best.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey guys, it's Erik. Before we sign off, I just want to give you the sailing update. For those of you that are interested in sailing with us sooner rather than later, we do have a couple of last-minute spots that have opened up. A couple of people have had to shift around. So we're going to be in the British Virgin Islands March 10th through the 15th. This is 2025. And one couple has had to move to another trip, so their loss is your gain. But if you want to come March 10th through the 15th, we do have spots for 2 people, 1 cabin. Also, we're going to be in the Bahamas March 31st through April 5th. We have a couple of cabins open. So if that works for you, we're going to sail in and out of Nassau, sailing the beautiful Exuma Islands. If you want to sail with us a little bit further out on the calendar, June 7th through the 14th, we're going to be in Italy. All these next trips are in Europe, in the Mediterranean. Italy, Naples, beautiful spot, June 7th through the 14th. Greece, sailing out of Athens, July 19th through the 26th. Croatia, a town called Split. We're going to discover it together. I haven't been there before. So August 2nd through the 9th. So you can hop on one of our spring trips to the BVI or the Bahamas, or you can join us in Italy, Greece, or Croatia. Just shoot us an email, hello@theawesomefactory.nyc, or ping us on social media, DM us, and we'd love to hear from you and hopefully welcome you aboard.